Good afternoon. Welcome to your journey to freedom, where we are transforming lives one testimony at a time. I'm your host, Eunice Patricia Ferrel, and I'm grateful to have my husband, number one supporter, in the studio with me today.
Hello, everyone.
We appreciate you for tuning in today. We'd like to take the time to say thank you for listening. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We want to give special thanks to all of our faithful supporters. It's because of you that we've been able to reach out to our community and people all over the world. We want to continue to be a blessing to our listening audience. If this talk shows help you or you need prayer for any reason, please give us a call at 850-530-7566 or 850-432-3658. Your Journey to Freedom talk show frequently talks about purpose and overcoming struggles, challenges, setbacks, obstacles, fears, and just everyday life situations and circumstances to fulfill your purpose. Your Journey to Freedom is a platform where you can transparently share your triumph, inspiring, and life-transforming testimony and story with others. To share your life-transforming story, please contact us at www.wordoftruthoutreachministries.com. Again, that's www.wordoftruthoutreachministries.com. Your story can be the very one that can change the lives of others forever. Today we will continue our powerful series on depression. We started a series last week, and it was such a powerful subject, and we want to, as I said earlier, continue that topic today. Feeling down from time to time is a natural, normal part of life. But for almost 1 out of every 5 persons, this temporary down moment turns into depression, and it can last a long time. And we're so excited about our special guest, Eunice Lewis. Eunice is an executive assistant by trade and has been writing for corporations for over 25 years. Eunice is the author of I Can't Wait Till I'm Grown. She aspires to help others by sharing her story through her novel. She dabbles in several types of art, including sewing, graphic art, and painting. Eunice is a native of South Central Los Angeles. She currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia. Eunice has encountered many tough hardships and struggles in life. At the age of 50, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and began searching for answers. Today, Eunice will courageously share her personal testimony of her relentless struggle with depression and her journey toward healing and true freedom. Welcome to the show, Eunice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing so great. I'm just blessed of the Lord, just happy to be alive. As my mother said many times, she said, as long as the ground isn't on you and you're not under the ground, it's a blessing. So I thank God that the earth is not on top of me today. So I'm just
Amen.
blessed. But we're going to go on with our topic today. Revelations 12:11 tells us, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And again, Eunice, we're so delighted to have you on our platform today to share your amazing and inspiring testimony of hope with others. And today's topic is depression. We're dealing with depression. We started this series on last week. We've discovered and talked about this topic before. But as I said in my introduction, feeling down from time to time is a natural part of life. But for almost 1 out of every 5 persons, this temporary down moment turns into depression, and it can last for a long time. And needless to say, Eunice, that this is not a subject that many people will come on and talk about. But we appreciate you for coming on to transparently share your story. And depression, many times, because I've encountered depression when I went through my bout with prescription drug addiction. Depressions affect, everything from emotions and physical health to our relationship and work. And you and I have been talking from time to time, and you shared in a conversation with me that you've experienced depression. So what we'd like for you to do is transparently share your story, your testimony with your bout with depression and this type of life. When did it all start?
Most likely it started when I became an adult and started to really experience the responsibilities that came along with adulthood, such as parenthood, the bills, working with other people in a job, understanding that I had to hold my tongue while working with other people. Growing up, I flipped off at the tongue whenever it hit me.
Okay.
But once I became an adult and I had children, I had to make sure that I held my tongue because I have to support them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to lash out at somebody, I knew I'd lose my job. So it became increasingly difficult to work with other people, especially not family members, because family members are less likely to cut you off at a heartbeat. Although I have had some family members cut me off, but for the most part, it started when I became an adult with those responsibilities, and then it began to escalate in my youngest child's teen years when she went to high school. So it became apparent to me that I needed to get some help. And even at that time, I was 40 at the time, even at that time, I just went to a doctor, my regular doctor, and said I was depressed. And generally what doctors do is just hand you something for the depression, and that's it.
Okay.
But 10 years later, it just became worse.
Okay. Now, what are some of the signs, your warning signs of depression that you experienced prior to going to the doctor?
Well, not being happy or satisfied. You find yourself or I found myself in a room full of people, more likely people that I did like, but I didn't find happiness there. And I could be in that room full of people and feel more lonely than I had ever felt in my life. Additionally, just feeling like there was no hope that I would ever be happy, and trying to understand what is happiness. How do you make that happen? Being in that room full of people and someone says something funny and then you laugh, but it doesn't seem real. It's like, where did that come from, or why am I laughing when I don't feel happy?
Okay. And we're talking to our audience today. We're going to give them some of the primary symptoms of depression, such as loss of interest in your normal daily activity, feeling helplessness, hopeless, sad, as you said earlier, loss of energy and inability to concentrate, problem sleeping, feeling uselessness, significant weight loss or gain, extended periods of indigestion, decrease in sexual activity for extended period of time, harming oneself, and thoughts of suicide or death. And we want to say to our audience today, seek help immediately. Help immediately if you're suicidal. So some of those same things you were saying are some of those primary symptoms of depression. Now, Eunice, what total effect did all of this have on you, emotionally, mentally, physically, your relationship with your children or your spouse, your family? What effect did this have on you?
Well, earlier in my life, probably beginning when I was about, let's say, 24, 25, somewhere around those, or later, late 20s, early 30s, I began to act out sexually, and I didn't realize at the time.
Okay, Eunice, what total effect did all this have on you emotionally, mentally, psychologically? Your relationship with your family, your children, or whatever? What effect did it have on you?
Well, my relationships basically with men I was promiscuous. I was basically reaching out to everyone and anyone, particularly who would have me. And one of the things that I always remember is something my sister told me, forgive me, God, when I accepted sex when all I wanted was a hug. And basically that's what I was doing, was trying to feel good about myself and feel good for a moment when these men didn't want me. They just wanted sex, which is generally what men do. And I thought I had a very high self-esteem, but I didn't. And I didn't realize that until many, many years later, which actually was a couple of years ago. So it kind of destroyed me mentally. as far as physically, I would sit in my room, be in there for hours. I'd snap at people, and people used to always say to me, it's not that serious. You know, if there was a conversation that came up and then I tried to rebut what they were saying to me, I would always, what they would call, overreact, and it's not that serious. And I always felt that what we were discussing at the time was extremely serious. So I think that with people who have bipolar disorder or mental illness, things are exaggerated, which causes us to lash out extremes. And it's, as I know now, when I kind of think about things as I'm starting to feel that agitation, I'm trying to pull myself back and say, okay, is this as serious as I'm making it out to be? Mm-hmm. And I'm able to kind of draw myself back. I wasn't aware that I had a mental illness or bipolar disorder until I was 50 years old, which was about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I was very upset that I didn't understand why I was behaving the way I was behaving. I didn't understand why I felt so sad, because my life wasn't horrible. Okay. I did okay in the financial department. I have great skills, but I didn't understand why I was so depressed. Okay. And until I did find out, when I did find out, that's when I began to feel like I was able to heal or control my outbursts or my anger towards other people.
Okay, now give us one of your an example of one of your most extreme time of lashing out, because we're dealing when talking to people who may be going through some of the same things you're going through or have gone through, can identify with your story. So give us an example of one of your most extreme times of lashing out.
Well, I do actually mention this in my book, where I had my niece and my daughter with me, and at the time they were my niece probably was about 10 and maybe my daughter was 13, and we went to a McDonald's. It was late, and I don't know why McDonald's always seems to bring out the worst in people. Okay. But we went in there, and it was late, and they were about to close, and I didn't realize that they were about to close. And they took my order. I got my order back, and we went on our way to sit down. And the man told me we couldn't sit down. And I said, why not? He said, well, we're about to close. We have to close. And I really got angry, so angry that I started screaming at him and saying, well, why did you take our order? You didn't have to take our order. You could have just told me you were closing. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I'm sorry, we're just closing. But I just really was acting as though he really did me some harm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was a McDonald's that was also associated or connected to a gas station where there was a little mini store. Mm-hmm. And I went over to them and asked who's the manager over there. And he happened to come back out and say, is there a problem? And I said, you're the problem. I don't need you over here. Okay. And I had my soda and my French fries in my hand, and he walked on, and I walked towards him, and I threw the soda in his direction. And it spattered all over the floor, and my niece and my daughter were saying, Auntie, come on, Mom, come on, let's go. And I'm thinking, I know I was angry, but I didn't realize that I put them in a really bad position, and I had myself in a bad position. I went to walk out the door, put a French fry in my mouth, and I got upset that they were now cold, and I walked back in. He was mopping the floor, and I threw the French fries in his direction. Okay. And he said, ma'am, you just need to leave. And my daughter and my niece again would say, let's go, come on. Mm-hmm. That was out of control. Okay. And I think that probably was the worst.
Okay. For those of you who are just joining us, our special guest today is author of I Can't Wait Till I'm Grown, Eunice Lewis, and we're talking about victory over depression. Now, I can say for myself personally, Eunice, that depression is real. people used to think that feeling depressed was all in your head, and this is research. And if a person really tried, that they could pull themselves out of it. But today we have better understanding of depression. We know that's not the true case. Depression isn't something one can prevent. It's no longer considered a failure of character. It's not your fault, and it can be treated. The biggest barrier, however, is recognizing depression. There's no single cause for depression. An expert believe that the combination of three factors, genetic, the environment, and chemical imbalances in the brain working together to cause depression. And Eunice, we know that you have gone through a bout, you've had an arduous journey, you struggled with depression, you mentioned that low self-esteem, and not everyone who sets out to overcome or break free from depression succeeds in getting free. How did you overcome your bout with depression or have victory over depression?
Well, actually, I still, I mean, it's not that it's over. It'll never be over, or I will never have overcome. But in order to get through it, I always know that God is with me.
Yes.
And there's one thing that I do love, and that's clouds and babies. Their laughter is precious and therapeutic for me. Looking at clouds, and they got that saying, there's a silver lining behind each cloud, and clouds for me are just such a relaxing thing. So knowing that, my mother used to also say, this too shall pass.
Okay, amen.
Light at the end of the tunnel. Whatever metaphor I can use at that moment, I know that I'm going to get through it because God is here. Yes. He's helping me, and I know that He is. So I know that this too shall pass, and eventually it does. Sometimes it takes a little longer for it to pass, but I know that it will. And so I hold on to that. And the other thing that I hold on to are my children, that I could never harm myself because of my children. I have to. One makes the left side beat, and the other makes the right side beat. And they're my life.
Yes.
And I could not survive without them. I could not survive without God's help. So with those things, I get through it.
Okay. Now, what are some other things that you do to manage this type of life, to help you get through it on a day-to-day basis?
Great. I like to paint. Okay. I didn't know that I had the talent until maybe a few years back, and it was to a great degree. So I like transforming things from an ugliness to beauty. And even though you might find, I've been in the administrative field, and when people say you need organizational skills, I even find that to be an art because it's taking something from disorganization to organization. So I like making things look better, function better. So I bring myself into either cleaning the house or redecorating a room, painting on canvas. I love to sew. I'm very good at that as well. So I take my art, any type of art, and sink myself into that. And I love reggae music, so I'll turn that on, listen to that, and I don't allow people into that world. They just have to be away from me at that time. And I know that when I'm feeling bad and I come in the room and they ask me a question and I snap, I know that I have just snapped at them, and I can immediately say, I'm in a mood, don't take it personal. Okay. And they say, okay, and they leave me alone. So for anybody, getting help is essential, because if you don't know you have the illness or depression, the chemical imbalance, because just like you said, it's something that everybody goes through, but it can be the mental illness side of it. You need to know. And if somebody's telling you you got a problem, or it's not that serious, or smile, it's not that bad. And I hate it when people say smile, it's not that bad, because you're not in my world. You don't know what I'm going through. Yes. And I would ask everybody not to say that, because we're living in a volatile world. and you might come across that person who does have that mental illness, and that could actually send them over to a different side that you don't want to be involved in. So art is my outlet, art and music.
Wonderful. Now, according to Dr. Holly Atkins, she states that just as there are a variety of reasons for depression, there are also numbers of different types of depression. She talks about major depression or unipolar. Then there's the dysthymia, is that dysthymia depression, less severe than major depression. And then she talks about the third one, which is bipolar disorder, the episode of down moods. And then there's the fourth one, seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. And that's one that I encountered for many, many years. Each time the season changed during the fall, I was just feeling so down and gloomy and blue. But I thank God for the past 3 years, I've not experienced that feeling in my life. I'm a retired school teacher, so each time the students started to go back to school in the fall, I was always so down and depressed for one reason, because I always wanted to get back to my teaching career. But those are some other type of depression as well. Now, Eunice, there are some people listening that can identify with your story, bipolar, or whatever depression, type of depression there is, and they're desperately struggling to overcome their depression. How would you encourage them?
Well, therapy helps me a lot. Going out and getting the medication and just taking the medication is not, I don't recommend that at all, because you're still trying to deal with some things that have gone on within your life. Mm-hmm. And talking to a therapist for me opened a lot of, it gave me some clarity in addition to the medication. And then I actually tried coming off, or I did come off the medication at one time. Mm-hmm. And that didn't work. That didn't go over well at all. Okay. And so keep staying on medication, going through some therapy, and then they may pull you back from the therapy, and you may find that you have to go back. Okay. Go back. It's so important. And the other thing is that the media doesn't give bipolar disorder a fair shake, because there are actually two types of bipolar disorder. There's bipolar disorder 1, which is mania, and bipolar disorder 2, which is depression. And I have bipolar disorder 2. So when you're looking into the media, such as radio or television, or even the news, and the news is really bad about this, when there's a mental illness such as bipolar disorder, when they come out and they say, well, that person had bipolar disorder, it's not nice to say that it's bipolar disorder and not say which one it is, because when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, they just said bipolar disorder. In addition to that, when I went to the psychologist, they didn't even diagnose me. They didn't tell me what I had, what my problem was, until months later when I went back and I said, what is my diagnosis? Bipolar disorder. I said, oh, no. Because what I knew was that bipolar disorder that came through the media, and all they said was bipolar disorder. So that was what I saw, the mania. People need to be aware that there are those two types. So I denied that I had bipolar disorder. And then when I began to research the bipolar disorder, the symptoms didn't seem to fit me. But then when I started putting in my symptoms and the words bipolar disorder within the internet, that was when it started to become clear for me that those were actually my symptoms, and I was going through bipolar depression. So it's important, number one, to seek psychiatric assistance, go through therapy, take your medication. If it's not working for you, if it makes you feel a certain way, not good, tell your doctor. Mm-hmm. Tell your doctor that this is not making me feel good, because trust and believe, I had to go to him and say, this medication makes me feel like junk. Yes.
I can relate, because I did the same thing. I was on almost every type medication for depression, antidepressants, and all type of pain medication. But I'm grateful to say, and not everybody can say this, but I'm grateful to say that I am off of all my medications. I don't have to take any of the medications that I was once prescribed. And it's been like a long haul, but God is able. He's a deliverer. He's a freer. And he freed me from all that other type of medication. I'm probably just on a vitamin D now. And basically every so often, if the migraines, I may take something, sumatriptan for that. I try to take something low dose for that, tramadol or something like that. But it has been a journey. I tell anyone, it has been a long journey for me, but I'm very, very limited with medication because of the side effects. And as you said earlier, sometimes it's, they make you feel so different. And I didn't like the way I felt. I wanted my life, and I struggled for my life back, and God has given that back to me again. But Eunice, despite all of your pain and struggles, we're almost out of time. Despite your struggles and your challenges, God still had a divine plan for your life, and you're the accomplished author of I Can't Wait Till I'm Grown. What inspired you to write this book or this novel?
Well, actually, I started writing the book 20 years ago, and when I first started writing it, I wanted to just write the book for entertainment purposes. And then through many moves that I did through at home, many moves, I thought I lost the book, or I thought I threw it in the trash. And then when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was looking through my stuff for some clarity, or for God to give me some sort of purpose. I said, God, please tell me what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. Yes. And I actually came across the 65 pages that I had written 20 years before. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to finish it. But my focus then became that this is how I grew up. And at that time, even though I was being or tagged as moody, mean, grouchy, all the negative types of behaviors, there was never a clue that I had bipolar disorder or any type of mental illness. So that was where my focus came, that here we go with my life, and not knowing, growing up and dealing with this, and then later finding out late in my life that I had the mental illness. And so I wanted to start helping people and bringing awareness to the communities, especially Black communities, that this is prevalent in our society, and that we need to deal with it, and not just say, well, we're just such a strong people and we don't put up with crap. That's why we behave this way. No, not necessarily. You may be behaving that way because you have some issues that a doctor needs to help you through. And so I want to be able to help the communities to overcome and to go through it and feel better.
And that's wonderful. Eunice, your powerful testimony is touching the lives of so many, and I'm sure many will be blessed as a result of it. What are some of your future goals, very quickly, because we don't have a whole lot more time?
Some of my future goals, of course, are to speak to communities, speak to people, and let them know what you're actually dealing with. Just try to help the communities in understanding. And one of the other things that I wanted to try to get, especially young girls, in understanding that going out and being with boys and trying to grow up too soon is not the way to go. That your education is so important, not just young girls, but women as well. We find ourselves lost in trying to be with a man and thinking that that's going to fulfill our lives, and it doesn't. It just makes you feel worse, and you fall further and further into depression. So I want people to understand, and I want to get that message out there, and that's where I'm headed.
Okay, and thank you. And we're almost out of time. How can listeners contact you very quickly?
I have a website. It's Eunice Lewis, EUNICELEWIS.com. There's a contact page on there. I look forward to getting questions from you, or if you need me to come and speak at your engagement, I would love to do that as well.
Okay, Eunice, you've done an outstanding job. Thank you for being a guest on today's show. We wish you well and pray God's blessings on your endeavors. If you'd like a copy of today's show, Victory Over Depression, please contact us at 850-530-7566 and request copy YJF I-147B. Thank you all for tuning in, and tune in next time and discover true freedom for yourself. God bless you.